Hello, my friend. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Peaceful Prosperity. I am Oliver Manalesa, a lifestyle business coach. I've been working with entrepreneurs since 2012 to eradicate spiritual bankruptcy and create peaceful prosperity in their lives and their businesses. Doing this primarily with self discovery, reinvention, life and business design. And so I'm really excited to be here with you today to talk about setting and enforcing boundaries as an entrepreneur and as a business owner. So I think this is a really important conversation for us to be having because I think first we need to acknowledge that we only have a limited amount of willpower and discipline and decision making power every single day. I think you and I can relate to the idea of getting to the afternoon, getting to the end of the day, and not feeling like we have the capacity to do hard things or higher level problem solving or making uncomfortable decisions or having uncomfortable conversations towards the end of the day. And I think it's because that there is only so much bandwidth that we actually do have. And relying too heavily on willpower and discipline, it might actually bite us in the ass because it's actually not enough when it comes to what we are trying to accomplish and what we are actually trying to create when it comes to having a successful both life and business. And so we need to acknowledge that as human beings, we are psychologically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually affected by all the things that we are exposed to throughout the day. So it might be your own family members, it might be your team members, the people that you work with, random people that you are sharing space with throughout the day, their mindset, the language that they use, the type of energy that they bring could really, really either drag you down or lift you up. We can put ourselves in situations where we are in environments, right? Like being in an environment that is surrounded by nature and organic spaces and lots of natural colors and not lots of natural light evokes a very different state in us compared to being stuck inside, like no windows or no like I think we need to realize that really the point is that when we are going through our day, there are things that are either expanding or collapsing our bandwidth, that are leveling up or dragging down our energetic space. And this could even we could even look at the types of content that we are consuming. I think a lot of us have noticed, I know you have noticed, that things have become very tumultuous online. Things can get really squirrely with the rabbit hole that you find yourself online, and you can get into a place where the energy of what you are consuming is really dragging you down, especially when it's things that you don't have power over, where you can't directly influence something. Or it could actually lift you up when it pertains to something that's relevant to you, something that you have control over, that you can take ownership of in your life, in your business, in your relationships. And so the reality is, as human beings, we are permeable in nature, meaning from the moment that we wake up to the moment that we go to bed, we are actually constantly being affected by the people, the places, the environments that we actually expose ourselves to. And no amount of discipline or willpower is going to be enough to really protect our precious energy. So in my book, The Daily Prosperity Method, I have a whole chapter about protecting your most valuable resource, which is your mental energy and attention. And it's such a powerful chapter because it's just a simple mindset shift for us to be able to realize that, okay, we're constantly trying, our attention is constantly being leached, constantly being dragged away from the thing that we need to be focusing it on. And so as permeable beings, we need to realize that until we establish clear boundaries for ourselves and actually enforce those boundaries for ourselves, we're going to be constantly be falling into the trap that a lot of my clients, when they start working with me, they feel completely overrun by their business. They're constantly feeding, they're constantly giving their energy to tasks or to people or to projects, and wondering what's left for the thing that they actually do need to be focusing on, that is of high priority, that's of high level. And so I think we can get really stuck going through the motions like that. And I think we need to ask ourselves is, if you are finding yourself exhausted and you're finding yourself burnt out, and you're so busy throughout the day but not really getting anything done, to ask yourself, is this possibly a boundary issue? Are boundaries missing in my life and in my business right now? Because I think we really need to look inwards and do this self-inquiry work to find out if boundaries were present, if they existed and it created positive constraints, what type of difference would that make? Would that make me feel clearer? Would that make me feel calmer? Would that make me feel more present? And so I think one of the things that the terms that gets tossed around is the idea of life and work balance, right? Life balance. And in many ways, I understand the sentiment. It's the idea of wanting to have the best of both worlds, something that I get really excited about creating for the people that I work with. But ultimately, I think one of the drawbacks of the mentality around balance is thinking that we need to equally divide our attention and our energy between the things that matter to us, when really I think what we're after is to be fully present and fully engaged in each of the things that matters to us. One of my clients not so long ago, he noticed that he was physically there with his wife and with his kids, but mentally at work, mentally on his clients. Or he would be physically at the gym or at his yoga practice trying to focus on his physical well-being, but mentally he was checked out and he was thinking about, I should be with my kids, I should be with my wife, feeling guilt around that, or I should be, taking and responding to these emails and texts in between my sets, in between my workouts. And so I think when our minds are fragmented in that way, I believe that for most of us, that's what we don't want. I think that's what we understand, that that is actually, it's unproductive and it's not the best use of our time each day, and it actually can really drag down our results. But when we are fully present and fully engaged in our workout or our family or our business, we know that that's actually what moves the needle. That's actually what creates meaningful progress every single day, is when there are no distractions, when there's no friction that's preventing us from moving the freaking thing forward. So I think we need to also address the idea of the fact that no matter what business you are in, it's a lifestyle choice, right? And also, depending on the season that you are in your business, it's gonna be very, very different, right? So, like when I was a real estate agent, that was a lifestyle. I was always available to my clients almost 24 hours a day. I rarely took days off. Whether it was a holiday or not, every day was pretty much treated the same. If an opportunity arose where I could show a property or sign, get a client to sign a purchase and sale agreement or sell a house or whatever it is, I would do it. It didn't, like, every day was treated equally. And it, because of that career path and where I was on that career path, it would, like, I could see how blocked, like, some of us can be when it comes to trying to establish a boundary with time on and time off, right? Days on and days off. And so I think we need to realize that, yes, no matter what you are doing, it's all a lifestyle choice. They all inform and affect one another, right? Our life affects our business affects our life. And when we start acknowledging, like, you might be in the earlier stages of your business and realize you got to say yes to everything so that you can generate some momentum, so you can get things going. And you need to constantly be taking action, right? There's only so much learning and consuming of content and education and reflection and prepping and planning that you can do. You actually have to implement it and apply it in the real world to really find out, will this create results for clients? Will this generate a profit for my business? Will this sustain my life? And I think it's important for that season where the biggest obstacle, the biggest opportunity for you is to just make something happen. But then I think we have to realize that when those seasons change, we can sense that the season is changing because we realize that there are areas that truly matter to us that we are not doing well in, that we are actually neglecting or that are falling by the wayside. And when we start to realize that, when we start to see that our pursuits, no matter how aligned it is with our purpose and our gifts and how meaningful our pursuits are, when it starts to take away from the other areas, mental health, physical health, quality time with our wife, with our kids, with our spouse, when it starts to take away from our spiritual path, when it takes away from the things that really matter to us, that's when we need to take a step back and acknowledge the fact that perhaps there's a lack of boundaries. And if we don't create boundaries, then we're bound to continue the vicious cycle over and over and over again, which is why a lot of us can end up finding ourselves exhausted, burnt out, overwhelmed, feeling like we've lost our sense of direction, asking ourselves, does this really matter? Because it's taking away from all of these things. And so over the last couple of years, as I've been transitioning my coaching practice and really reinventing it towards becoming a coaching business, I've had to reflect on and unpack what I have helped clients to achieve. And they've done amazing things, right? I've had clients increase revenue by 160% in a year. I've helped clients decrease their work hours each week, anywhere from 16 to even 80% sometimes. I've seen clients have a lot more fun, a lot more freedom and flexibility to focus on their marriage, focus on their kids' lives and the things that their kids are passionate about, to find out other hobbies and interests that they have in their life, or to ask life's deeper questions. And when I started to reflect and look at the feedback that they've been giving me on, why or what actually supported them in our work together to create those results, one of the most consistent things that they said was boundaries. And so let's get into it. Let's dive into the boundaries that we can set and enforce for ourselves. Boundaries, really, it's realizing that when everything is collapsed into one and the same thing, right? Life and work and relationships and time and energy and projects and everything is important. Everything matters. Answer every call. Like that's when like life is a tangled mess. And really, part of the work that we do together is about untangling the mess, creating distinctions between, what's important, what's not important, what makes a difference, what doesn't make a difference. And I think just doing that can really bring the nervous system down to a place of feeling much more relaxed, much more calm, and actually have more access to that bandwidth, more access to that capacity to do the next hard thing, to solve the next high level problem. And so, and really, that's what it comes down to is when we realize that there is an area that is dragging us down, that's leaking our energy, it's important to realize that it's only when we find ourselves or other people betraying a boundary that we realize a boundary is needed. So that's one thing that you can start thinking about for yourself right now. It's like, okay, like what boundaries have been stepped on, have been betrayed, have been sinned against, let's say, by myself or others. And one of the ways that you can know is that it immediately triggers an emotional reaction for you. You might feel resentful about it, you might feel guilty about it, you might feel angry about it, because and it's that emotional experience is there to inform you that there's something that needs your attention. And if we don't do anything about it, we'll find a cycle, a repeating pattern of that happening over and over and over again. So it might be letting clients take advantage of you, people pleasing, constantly saying yes. It might be always working and never taking a step back from the work. It might be being distracted and not present, always, answering your phone in between conversations and being completely fragmented. There's so many areas that you could be looking at for yourself where boundaries are actually needed. And so I think it's important for us to start the self-inquiry work in this domain, by asking, what boundaries have been betrayed, where have people crossed those boundaries, or actually like where have I fallen out of integrity in certain areas. And so I think that's one of the places that this this exploration can begin for you. And I want to invite you into some of these ones that have been very helpful for myself and also for my clients over the years, because these are the things that really create enough structure. Because ultimately, when your life and your business is a jumbled mess, when it's a tangled mess, when you are overwhelmed, when you are overrun, when you are exhausted, really, and everything is an option and everything is a choice and everything is possible. Like it's really an imbalance where there's too much yin energy happening. And yin is chaotic. There's a lot of potential and possibility in it, but to the furthest extreme, it can really bombard us and burden us and have us paralyzed. And so we need to introduce some yang energy, which is creating boundaries, which is creating structure, which is creating a container for ourselves. And so the first boundary that I invite you to consider, and it could even sound like an affirmation that you create for yourself or a declaration for yourself. It's like a possibility for you to start stepping into, and it's not just a boundary, but this first one is, I am not my business. I have a business. I can't tell you how many times I've had clients tell me just that alone created such momentum for them. Because I feel like when the work that you do, especially if it's purposeful and meaningful and you're using your gifts and you're making an impact, it's very easy to have your identity or your sense of self completely wrapped up in your business. And I think when the business is doing well and you're doing great work, you're up. And when your business is not doing well and it's not producing results that you want, then you are down. And when this happens, we have to acknowledge, is my self-worth and my sense of self, my self-esteem, my identity, my being, is it attached to my business? So when you create the boundary, I am not my business, I have a business, what do you think that does? One of the biggest things that it creates is distance and space. Rather than being the business, now you have a business, you've created some distance, you've created some space. It creates a sense of perspective for yourself. You can look at it as something outside of yourself. It's like, oh, wait, maybe my business is just a tool. Maybe my business is just a mechanism. Maybe my business is just a vehicle of trying to get from point A to point B, as opposed to my entire sense of self is this business. And I think when we step outside of it, it actually brings us back to a place of realizing we can make a different choice. We can choose a different approach when it comes to how to operate, how to run that business. And there are many things that trickle down from that distinction or from that boundary of I am not my business. You know, like for myself and for my clients, it's realizing that in terms of time and energy and attention, we can create clearer boundaries of like, from this time in the day is when I'm on, and this time of the day I'm shutting it off. And I'm going to be fully present when I'm on, and I'm going to be fully present to the other things that matter to my life when my business mind is off, right? And so I think I think when we are allowing ourselves to set that type of boundary, it's all actually also not enough. We have to enforce it, right? So if you've created boundaries like a boundary like I am not my business, we have to enforce that, and we have to look at all right, over the past week, in what ways have I not demonstrated this? In what ways have I betrayed this boundary? In what ways have I let other people walk across this boundary? And as soon as you gain the awareness, as soon as you identify those specific moments, those specific instances, whether it's a behavior, a habit, a pattern, that is what gives you opportunity to enforce the boundary again, right? Like just becoming aware of those places, it actually, the next time those come back around, you'll be in a place of having a choice, right? You can allow that boundary to be crossed again, or you can actually allow yourself to choose differently and say, actually, you know what? I can't do any meetings on this time or this day. How about this day and that day, right? So like you kind of, you start saying no to the things where previously you would have said yes. And so I think that's probably one of the first boundaries that you can make. Another one to consider is I prioritize myself. And so I think one of the things that many of us are guilty of is putting our business on a pedestal, is thinking that it is the golden ticket, it is the key, it is the thing that will solve all our problems. And we put so much worth and so much value on this tool, on this concept, on this idea, on this vehicle, that we forget about ourselves. We put ourselves last. Nearly everyone I've ever worked with, they put themselves at the bottom. They do their job, do their work. They're there for their family, there for their kids, there for their spouse. They focus on everyone's needs and they put themselves last. And I think when we switch the orientation of our attention and our energy to I prioritize myself, we flip it. It's almost like everything just falls back in line. It's like, oh yeah, right. It makes sense. I think we need to think ourselves in concentric circles where at the heart of it is me, right? And the center of the concentric circles, in the heart of it is me. And then it is my spouse. And then it is my kids. And then it is my business. And then it is my community, right? To actually, you might even want to draw this out in your journal to put yourself in the center and ask yourself, all right, in terms of my immediate circle, like what actually matters after myself. And then you start to realize it brings order, it brings a priority sequence for you to realize this is what I need to invest in. This is what I need to care for in this order, right? When I am taken care of, I am better for my marriage, better for my kids, better for my business. And like I said, with the previous boundary, maybe you journal on in what ways have I been putting myself last? Have I put others first? And in what ways has it cost me? In what ways has it negatively affected me? And just doing some inquiry work so you can gain some awareness of those moments and those instances so that when they do come back around, you're actually free to make a choice to be able to set the boundary and to be able to enforce it as well. Because somebody who prioritizes themselves, it's realizing, hey, when my mind is right, when my heart is right, when I'm connected with my intuition, when my physical body, when my spirit, when my energy is protected and it's elevated, and I've done the things to be able to bring myself to these higher states, then my best self shows up. And when my best self shows up, then I'm doing way more good. Because isn't that really what this is all about? It's like, can we do good for ourselves so that we can do more good for others, right? In our family, in our work, in our businesses, in our communities. That's really what it comes down to. And I think the third one I'll share with you today, because I've been going about almost half an hour now. The third one I'll share with you today is the one that has actually helped bring some more freedom and flexibility and take time back for clients is, and this is a difficult one, I get paid for my results. Not how hard I work, not how much time I put in, and not how much effort I put in. So this is going to be one that might be it might take some time for you to be able to let this one land. When you set a boundary or when you create a distinction called I get paid for results, not for my time, not my effort. It's like realizing that, especially when you are in a service-based, client-based business, realize that the thing that your clients and customers care about is the result that you are producing for them, that you are delivering to them, the solution that you are providing them. How much time it took you, how hard you work are not as important. And I think this is a very, very powerful one if you let it land, because when you start to honor and respect the size of the results that you are delivering to people, and you are detaching your time and effort from it, what you are actually doing is you're empowering yourself to free even more of your time. When you honor and respect and you have reverence around, what unique results, what unique transformation that you are actually able to provide for your clients, then you are actually creating this detachment where it's not about how much time, how much effort, how much work it takes to produce the result, you're actually just you start asking yourself different questions like, how do I do this better? How do I do this faster? How do I do this simpler? How do I do this more effectively, more efficiently? Who would benefit more from this type of result, right? Who's the best fit? Who's the most ready to receive that type of result, right? Like, who's going to value that result the most, right? This is actually one of the main boundaries that you can create that can turn into increased profits, that could actually free up more of your time each week. And so I really invite you to start wrapping your head around the idea of, I get paid for my results, right? The results is what I get paid for. Whether it took me 30 minutes or 40 hours, like, the result is what the customer and the client is paying for. And when you start thinking about the size of the result and who would be the most excited to receive that result or that solution or that transformation, it can really realign your whole perspective on the work that you do. And so that, my friend, I will end it here. These are the boundaries that the top three, I would say, that can start propelling you forward and to bring your nervous system down, to calm you down, to create more clarity for you, so you have more capacity in your day-to-day life. The first one is, I am not my business. The second one is, I prioritize myself. And the third one is, I get paid for my results. If you'd like help in implementing this, I have one-on-one coaching programs as well as group coaching programs that might be a really good fit for you. I'd love to have a conversation, complimentary call to strategize, look at your goals and see if there's a fit there. Set a time together at olivermenalese.com/call, and I look forward to connecting with you soon. Bye for now.